microphone. Testing. Yes. Hello, everyone. So we'll be beginning class in about 2 minutes. Let me know in the chat if you have any injuries or anything that's going on for you and you might need assistance with. And it's good to have a yoga bolster or 1 or 2 cushions or pillows, maybe from your couch or from your bed. And we can also use books. If you do not have a yoga block or 2, then using books and stacked up so that you can sit on them, then that's a good way of working if you do not have any yoga props at home. And so our practice today is a very cozy yin yoga. And so we can keep our socks on, jumpers on, whatever feels nourishing today. And I'm just going to request that everyone puts their self on mute, and hopefully your camera works so I can see you. That's really useful if we can see each other. That's good. And so we'll make a start. So welcome to Yin Yoga today, everyone. My name's Natasha if you are brand new to my classes. So hopefully we'll be working through a sequence that is accessible for you. But if you find that you do have injuries or maybe it just doesn't feel good in a position, then feel free to take a different alternative position that you may know, or we can just take a child's pose or even a meditation seat. And to begin, we'll come to a lying down position and we can use the bolster. So placing your bolster behind you or maybe a few cushions, and make sure they're close to your sacrum and then roll down through the spine. Bring your feet together, allow your knees to flop sideways. And then resting the arms wide here, so that you can relax and open through the shoulders and the front of the chest. And we call this the heart center. So Anahata chakra in the center of the chest is really opening here. And in your lying down position, we'll take a few releasing sighs to cleanse out the week that you've had. So deep breath in through the nose. And big sigh out. Long, deep breath in through the nose. Breathing into the front of the chest and down to lower belly. Big sigh out. And then one more, inhale deeply. And big sigh out. As you relax here, whether you're using a yoga bolster or if you have no bolster at home, we can just be lying flat on the ground. And so here is a gentle hip opening with your feet together, knees wide. Feel into the movement of the breathing. And as we begin today's class, we'll practice a pranayama exercise. So as we hold the breath movement, what we do is pause in the movement of the breath flow and try not to tense or tighten when you hold your breath. If you do not want to hold your breath today, or maybe you are prenatal, then definitely do not hold the breath if you are, and just keep the breath moving. Perhaps you count a slow breath in and a slow breath out without holding the breath. So today's pranayama is where we first breathe in for 3, and then we hold the breath for 2, and then we breathe in further for 2, and we hold the breath for 3. Then we breathe in right to the top, so the fullest capacity for 1, and we hold that for 4, and then we empty the breath entirely for 5. So I'll be doing the counting. See if you can soften into and relax into a passivity and stillness so that you bring all of your attention to the breath movement. So to begin, empty your breath entirely, breathing out. And first, pacing yourself, breathe in for 1, 2, 3, holding the breath, 1, 2, breathe in further for 1, 2, holding the breath, 1, 2, 3, breathe in for 1, right to the top, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, emptying the breath slowly for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Taking a breath in for 1, 2, 3, holding the breath in, 1, 2, breathe in further for 1, 2, holding the breath, 1, 2, 3, breathe in for 1, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, emptying the breath slowly for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, holding the breath, 1, 2, breathe in further for 1, 2, holding the breath, 1, 2, 3, breathe in for 1, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, emptying the breath slowly for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, holding the breath, 1, 2, breathe in further for 1, 2, holding the breath, 1, 2, 3, breathe in for 1, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, emptying the breath slowly for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And now taking a deep breath in all the way to the top, breathing into the fullest. and slow breath out. Long, deep breath in and slow exhalation. And allow your breath to find its own natural rhythm. And now as you move, we'll bring the palms behind your knees, helping your legs to move together. And roll to your right side as you come to a seated position. And with your eyes closed, bring the palms to prayer pose Anjali Mudra. Thumbs connect to the center of the chest, the heart space. And in this moment, setting your intention. So call into your experience something you'd love to really reconnect to or to see more of in your day-to-day life. Once you have your intention, repeating that 3 times to yourself mentally. And have a wonderful yin yoga today, everyone. As we move into our first pose, let's bring our feet together. Allow the knees to flop sideways, and as you fold forwards, round your spine. Allow your head to hang heavy so the chin moves towards your chest. And as you hang forwards, you can choose to go further and move your forearms over your shins, or even bring your palms and your arms under your legs. Now, there may be some of you with a yoga bolster at home, so you could place your bolster tallways up like so, and then rest your head on top, or maybe sideways, and resting your forehead towards your feet. Or maybe you're working with books or blocks, so you could stack them on top of your feet. And placing your forehead here, or even on the feet. Your forehead could rest on the feet themselves. So as we practice butterfly position, we'll be working with our legs in a kind of square shape. So not too close to the inner hips, but actually move your feet forwards, and then the legs become more like a square shape or a diamond shape. And so we have more space for the knee joint. The knee joint is more of a 90-degree angle. And this is the way in which we practice our yin hip opening. Now, there are 3 principles to the way we practice yin yoga. So principle number 1 is we always work with the most appropriate sensation level. And this is one of never too much, but also not too little sensation. So we're keen to feel gentle, continual traction in the fascia, so the soft tissue of the body, but it never be so intense that it creates more tension somewhere else, or what we call an energetic disruption or a mental disruption. So we're keen to be in a position and a place of depth that is not too much, that the body tenses or tightens, but also not too little that we do not feel anything. So finding that sweet spot for yourself in the middle of too much and too little. And then breathe into your edge. So breathing into the edge of the sensation. And over time, the more you breathe into it, the more it shifts, and you may be able to go further. But we take it slow, very slow and gradual progression forwards. Allow the head to hang heavy, so the back of the neck and the fascia down the back body is in continual traction all the way down to the sacrum, enlivening not only greater fluidity and blood flow into the physical tissue, but also enlivening the chi, the essence energy, through the meridian lines that run down the back body. So this corresponds with the urinary bladder meridian running down the back body parallel to your spine. And the urinary bladder meridian line is working in unison with the kidney meridian. And we can also target the kidney meridian on the inner legs in this gentle hip opening. And then principle number 2 is once we are holding at the most appropriate sensation level, we then remain in stillness and muscular relaxation, relaxing entirely. Imagine you're like a rag doll, you've just fallen in the shape. Whole body softens, and soften any trying or striving to fold deeper. Just relax where you currently are. And then principle number 3 is we hold for a long period of time. And the time is the way in which we nourish and pressurize these meridian lines. And time is also the way in which stillness comes about mentally. The mind can really slow and calm and quieten its fluctuations. And so it's a practice really that's very similar to meditation. We are meditating in yoga positions. Now taking your last and fullest breath in, and in slow motion release. In yin we move very slowly. So we move into postures, but also more importantly, we move out of postures very slowly. Bring the palms behind your knees, maybe with your eyes closed or half closed, and come to your meditation seat once more. And in your meditation seat, take a deep breath in. Big sigh out. Resting in whole body awareness, whole body mindfulness. And now fluttering the eyes open. And we'll come to our next position, which involves moving to a all fours position. So once in your all fours, if you are working with a bolster, we can use the bolster as support. So I can demonstrate, just in case you haven't tried this one, we can move the bolster under the chest. So it's going to be in the upper part of the chest with the arms forwards. So in order to do this, we bring the palms over the bolster and then sink the upper chest onto the bolster and release your forearms and then your forehead to the ground. Walk your knees inwards until they're underneath your hips. And this is a way we support the pose with a bolster. If you would like to practice with no bolster, then we can move the props away, and instead we position the palms further forwards than your shoulders. Bend your elbows Bring the forearms to the floor and then bring your forehead down. So you can choose whether you make it deeper here by moving your knees backwards. And that makes it more intense. Or moving your knees a touch forward makes it less intense. But ideally the knees are somewhere close to underneath your hips. If you do find that there's a lot of sensation in the shoulder area and the joint, then bend your elbows sideways and resting your forehead to the ground or to the hands. So that can be a way to get around any intensity around the shoulder. Or alternatively, for more sensation, bring your palms together, perhaps into prayer position. Outstretch the arms entirely and then hang yourself through your arms. So this we call puppy dog stretch or heart melting position. And once in your heart melting position, take a deep breath into the upper back. Breathing out to really soften and sink downwards. So riding gravity all the way down to the place of no resistance. Moving into that point of the least resistance. Whole body softens. And although there may be lots of sensation in the shoulder area, and that at times can cause a resistance mentally, or perhaps an overactive mind, see if you can use the breath, focus on the breath and transcend, kind of step above or breathe through and beyond what you feel. So the breath is an empowering tool and technique. In this pose, we target the heart and the lung meridians, and these run on the inside of both arms, down into the chest, improving the range of motion of the deep and the superficial arm lines of fascia. As you breathe in, expand and inflate areas of sensation. And as you breathe out, soften and sink downwards. And so in Taoism and the analysis of the body, the legs are yin by nature because they're heavier, they're denser, close to the earth. And the arms are yang by nature because they're lighter, more mobile, and closer to the heavens. And so when we turn ourselves upside down, we're having a real, let's say, an alternate experience, a new experience. And it is a mild inversion. So in yin yoga, this is a mild inversion. The upper body is the foundation, the part that's grounding. And the lower body is actually above us. The hips are above the heart and above the head. And so when we practice inversions, we can see things from a different angle. We can find a new perspective. And in doing so, we also calm the nervous system response. It allows the mind to become less active, and we can move away from the overactivity of the brain and into the body. In work and postures that are really targeting the upper body, I find it very beneficial to call upon a deeper breath movement. So the breath itself is maybe slightly more animated, more dynamic. When working in the lungs and the lung chi, this can be very beneficial. It can improve our respiration and process of elimination, supporting the health of the lung chi. And this upper body position also can bring up emotions. We can feel a vulnerability when working in the upper body, the heart and the lungs. It's very much linked to emotions. Every part of the body is, but in the upper body it's linked to our emotions in relationships. So grief can be stored and held in the lungs. And within the heart, there's compassion, relationships to ourselves and to others, and whether there's a compassion present in those relationships. Now, taking your last breath in here. And in slow motion, we're going to slide all the way forwards and come to rest on your front. So by releasing this pose, you may like to counter pose by pressing into your forearms and round the upper back. And then slowly lower your hips, your abdomen, and your chest to the floor, resting the forehead or one cheek to the backs of the hands. Soften and relax the legs. Take a deep breath in and cleansing sigh out. Whole body awareness, whole body surrender. Now to move into our yin back bend here, come to your forearms and resting up on the forearms for Sphinx pose, or we can choose to move into a seal position. So Sphinx pose is our first option. If you would like to go into a deeper back bend, then using two blocks, placing the blocks under your forearms. And when we lift up, make sure your elbows are slightly forwards of the head of the shoulders. And the palms can be together or over the blocks. So this deepens the curve of the back bend here. If you feel pinching or pain around your lower back, definitely release. So we do not want to hang out in pain or pinching. But if there's a very subtle sensation of compression, so a healthy compression, a gentle squeeze in this area, then that's a good thing. We may also feel continual opening through your hip flexors, so the psoas muscle that attaches to the lumbar spine. So there may be a dull, subtle achiness, which means that we're working more space and greater range of motion into the deep stabilizing muscles in the hip flexors. If you would like to go further, then move your palms outwards. Turn the fingers slightly outwards so the thumbs point forwards, and press into your palms like a seal with flippers. And we raise the elbows. So in seal position, drop the heart space down and forwards. So we do not want a hinge in one part of the back. And if we engage and press the floor away, we may get that hinge effect. Maybe you can see a kind of very intense curve there. But if we drop the heart space down and forwards, then the back moves into more of an even curve. So the even curvature throughout the entire spine is what we're looking for. As you breathe in, breathe into the back body. And as you breathe out, drop and melt your heart space down and forwards. Breathing in deeply. Exhale to really soften and sink and melt. Breathing in deeply. Exhale to soften. And if at any point it becomes too much, just come back to the forearms and then resting here. Close your eyes, bringing the awareness to what's going on inside your experience. How do you feel deep down, moment to moment? The more we inquire and dive inwards, the more we realize that actually our inner experience is one of continual change, constant flux. That actually to identify one way of feeling would be to limit ourselves. So often the mind latches onto an emotion and it could say, I'm having a bad day because I feel this today. But the more we inquire into our inner space and how we feel moment to moment, minute by minute, we'll notice that it's continually changing. So one moment we could feel really at peace. The next moment we could feel an irritability. The next moment we could feel ecstatically happy. The next moment we could feel really sad and teary. So there's a continuous change. And allowing this all to happen, really allowing everything to be in our experience, not labeling one way of being, is our journey in yoga. Not categorizing our experience in one way, but actually opening up a field of curiosity, a field of attention that holds everything that we're feeling with a compassion, allowing it all to be there. When we understand that we are continuously in flux and flow, and everything is always changing, then there's less expectation to be a different way. For what we are experiencing now will change, and a new experience will come, and then another one and another one, so we can continuously be in the state of watching, witnessing, without needing to label. And then each feeling and each experience is allowed to be there. And we can taste it and savor it and really feel it and sit in it for as long as it lasts. But when we label and contain and fix ourselves in one state just by continuously looking out for it, then it tends to last for longer because the mind has created it as well as it already being there. And so we watch and we witness what actually is happening moment to moment, allowing the truth of the moment to come through. And taking 3 more deep breaths. And now in slow motion release. Bring your elbows wide, resting your forehead or one cheek to the backs of the hands. And take a deep breath in. Big cleansing sigh out. Whole body awareness. And now to move, press into both palms and engage your core to protect your lower back. And very mindfully pressing your hips backwards, and in slow motion come to the opposite movement in the spine, which is flexion. So we bring the knees towards the chest, bring the forehead to the ground, and flexion means we open now the fascia across the lower back. Taking a deep breath in here and a big sigh out. Whole body awareness. Whole body mindfulness. Now in your child's pose, I'll give you the option to move into either a yin style child's pose twist or working into frog position. Frog pose is a hip opener that reaches the inner legs, so both sides, whereas in our child's pose twist, we're essentially working into one leg more than the other, and that's why we do both sides. So I'll demonstrate the child's pose twist. We bring the big toes together and move your knees wider than you normally would, and then sink your sit bones onto your heels. Then bring your palms forwards and walk your hands over to the left more. And then bring your right arm under your left arm, taking a twist on the diagonal. So you reach long through your right side body and sideways. Bring the right ear to the floor. Maybe bring your left arm behind you. Turn the palm back and find either your trouser, t-shirt, or the inside of the right thigh here. So hopefully we're feeling sensation on the inside of the right leg. Gentle opening, stimulating the kidney chi. And if you do want to try frog pose instead, then we move the hips away from the heels, walk your feet wide, turn your toes out, and move your knees wider. And sink low with your hips, as low as possible, and then bring your forearms to the ground, maybe resting your forehead downwards. So this one is frog position. Toes are turned out like Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin feet And the knees slide away from one another over time. So this is quite intense, definitely an intense one, and very good for improving our box splits, which is splits on the wide plane, so outwards in line with your hips. One day. As we move into our preferred position, breathe into the sensation you're experiencing in the legs. If you're in the twist, we also target the heart and the lung meridians by pressurizing the arm that's under you with the body weight. As you breathe in deeply. As you breathe out, surrender, really soften into gravity. So there's a continual softening. Now, if you were in the twist, return to center, and this time walking your palms over to the right side. Move your left arm under your right arm and slide the arm away from you. On the diagonal, bring your right arm behind you, turn the palm back, maybe find the inside of the leg. And hopefully you feel more on the inside of your left leg in this side of the twist. If at any point it becomes too much, feel free to move your knees closer together in your child's pose or your frog position. And as you breathe into areas that are really opening and feeling the traction, that continual tugging, pulling, that isn't a stretch because we're not really working in something that stretches. So muscles stretch, they have elastin, but the connective tissue and the fascia, these are feeling a stress in a good way. So it's actually a stress as opposed to a stretch. And think of a rope. So if we had a rope and we were pulling on both sides, both ends, then the rope would become really taut. And we would be bringing attraction to this rope, and the rope would feel a stress. And this stress is stimulating not only the health of our connective tissues, but also bone density and its ability to repair, and encouraging bone marrow production with this pressurization and traction through the skeleton. So there's endless benefits to this way of practicing. As long as we're listening to our body in a very subtle level of sensation. And we improve hydration in the fascial matrix that cocoons our entire body. And when the tissues are well hydrated, they glide more freely across one another. And our movements become very graceful, very smooth, non-jerky, but actually there's a smoothness to our movements, a sense of control and a sense of freedom. Now here we'll take 2 more deep breaths. And in slow motion release. If you did have your knees wide, then very mindfully move the knees back to center. And let's stretch back through one leg and then the other, releasing the back of the leg. And if we are feeling a lot here, take a sigh. So deep breath in, big sigh out. Whole body awareness, especially feeling into any flush of blood flow, chi flow, and sensations in the areas we worked. To move into our next position, come to a hip opening. Move your right knee to your right wrist. Swivel the toes towards your left hip and slide your left toes backwards. If you would like to move into a more accessible position, maybe you're feeling a lot in the knee, or perhaps you are quite far away from the ground, we can move sideways and sit down on the right glute and the outside of the leg. Bend your left knee and then bring your right foot forwards. So we're more at 90 degrees with both legs for this modification. And this one we call deer position. We can move the forearms over your shin and resting your forehead down. Or if you do want to, we can practice the more intense position, which is sleeping swan pose. And have your shin at a 45-degree angle. If you're practicing this one, knees further forwards than your foot. And then sink down to your right glute. Leg is straight behind you, internally rotated. So this means if you tuck your toes under, then you should be able to lift your knee or position the leg in a neutral place. And then you can relax your toes. And we can choose to come to rest on the floor here. Or the final way in which we deepen it is to bring your left arm under your right, taking a twist. So that's a way we can make it much more intense. We will be here for, as always, a long period of time. So modifying if you need to, and always come to this variation on the back if you would like less sensation. Right ankle moves over left knee. Left foot could be on the floor or grab behind your left leg or even in front of your shin to go further. Really nice, everyone. And encourage your body to spread and widen and expand over the support of the ground, or indeed the support of any props you're using. We can use bolsters or cushions underneath the chest, resting on something, perhaps with one cheek. And as you breathe into any uncomfortableness or any challenge, any places that the mind is preoccupied with. See if the breath and the presence of the breath changes and alters how those areas feel. So you bring the breath there like an offering, bringing the breath to the front of your left hip and the back of the right glute. So working in your right glute and the piriformis under the glute. So this is a great place to open if we want to avoid sciatica, feelings of sciatica. letting your hips and the muscle and the tissue around the pelvis relax. And I'm going to share a quote, one of my favorite quotes. For most things in life, you need time. Time to learn a new skill. Time to build a house. Time to become an expert. Time to make a cup of tea. Time is useless, however, for the most essential thing in life. The one thing that really matters. Self-realization. Which means knowing yourself beyond the surface self, beyond your name, beyond your physical form, beyond your history and your story. You cannot find yourself in past or future. The only place that you can find yourself is in the now. Spiritual seekers look for self-realization or enlightenment in the future. To be a seeker implies that you need the future. And if this is what you believe, it then becomes true for you. You will need time until you realize that you don't need time at all to be who you already are. And I love this, as we can so easily practice yoga and embark upon journeys of self-realization, thinking that there's an end destination in the future when we will know ourselves or become something that we want to be. And actually, Eckhart Tolle is reminding us here that the journey is full circle, that we begin essentially by seeking that which we already are. But we move through this journey, and maybe it takes years to one day understand that who we are and who we were at the beginning of the journey is all that we need to be. Becoming more and more the person that we already are. And settling into a relationship and a friendship with that person. And so we do not need to add or take away anything in order to be more self-realized. It just involves saying hello to who we actually are in this moment. And for that, we do not need any time. It can happen right now, in this moment. But as he says, the humor in the scenario is that sometimes it takes time to get to that place where we realize that no time is needed to be who we are already. And now taking your last and fullest breath in, and in slow motion we'll release. So pressing into both palms, and slide your right leg into neutral. So bring your right foot behind the right knee and straighten through the right leg here. Perhaps you move into a child's pose in between sides. Or you could choose to lie on the front if that feels better, so that you can release the hip flexors And wherever you are, take a deep breath in and cleansing sigh out. Whole body awareness. And now as we move into our second side, bring your left knee to your left wrist. Swivel the toes towards your right hip and slide your right toes backwards. And come to either the forearms here, resting the forehead to the backs of the hands. Or if you're keen to, we can come to sit down. So we move your left glute to the floor. Bend your right leg at a 90-degree angle and then move your left foot forwards. So we have more of a box shape really, a square shape, and 90-degree angles with both legs. Then fold over your fold over your shin with your forearms and then bring your forehead down. As you take a deep breath into your left side body, left glute, and the outer left leg, encouraging the body to soften and surrender as you breathe out. If you are feeling any knee pain, move to the variation on the back. So we bring the left ankle over your right knee, perhaps catching hold of behind your right leg or even in front of your shin. So there's many options to hip open there. And encouraging your body to spread and expand across the ground. Whole body sinks. And in this pose, we're working in the gallbladder meridian, which runs on the outer leg and outer hip. Working in this meridian line rebalances the chi flow of the gallbladder, which is the yang meridian and corresponds with the yin meridian of the liver. And the chi flow through these two meridians are responsible also for our inner disposition. So our inner disposition is often affected if the liver or the gallbladder chi is out of balance. And they belong to the wood element, which is the energy of springtime and new beginnings. And just like wood or trees, for example, in order to grow upwards and to reach towards the light, they must first create really strong foundations, really strong roots. So working in hip openers can allow us to deeply root down, to connect to the earth, to self-care, to move inwards, and to alter our inner disposition, perhaps from one of irritability or frustration, or even anger. Anger is stored in the liver. And moving out of these inner storms to a place of equanimity where we can see clearly. There's a clarity of vision, a clarity of sight when the wood element is rebalanced. And the liver meridian actually runs to the eyes. So that's linked with our vision, our sight. We can often see the health of our liver by looking in the eyes, whether the eyes are white and bright or slightly yellow or bloodshot. There's a lot that we can tell from the eyes, and they are the window to the liver. And so with this rebalancing of the liver chi, we can have a clarity. We can see forwards from our strong and firm foundations, our roots. We can then grow in the direction we want to grow. To move into new states of being, a new inner disposition, one of equanimity and peace. And now taking your last 2 deep breaths. And in slow motion, releasing from your hip opening. So do so by moving the leg back into neutral and move your foot behind your knee and outstretch the leg behind you, flexing the foot. And now if you are keen to child's pose or maybe a lying down position, or perhaps a more upright meditation seat for your moment in stillness to process the deep work you just did. Take a deep breath in and big sigh out. Whole body awareness. And now let's move to lie on the back. As you lower to rest on the back, you can choose to put socks on, jumpers on, anything that you require so that we're cozy when we move into our Shavasana. Before we do, we'll be twisting. So bring both knees to your right side. Perhaps you're keen to make it harder for you, so you could bring your left leg up and over your right leg, and then bring both knees to your right side. Did I say right side? Yes, I did. And just switch if you're doing the opposite direction. Ideally, so if you are having the knees together, ideally both knees are higher than your hips. And if you are intertwining the legs, the one that is on top is the one that moves to the opposite direction, if that makes sense. So we have a line through the body, and this diagonal line of fascia is in traction. So with your left leg over, your left arm will be outstretched, and vice versa. Yes, exactly. Now, as you breathe in, raise your arm, and as you exhale, either move it alongside your ear or go wide. The wider that you go, the more you'll feel. So if you feel too much, just raise it above your head. Keeping the arm in line with the shoulder or slightly higher on the diagonal. means that we're working the diagonal line of fascia. So I'll show you from this way. If the arm is positioned slightly higher than shoulder height, just here, that's good. You have this line from your fingertips across the chest to the opposite hip. So this is a great way to work. And then in the back line of the body, from your right shoulder across the back to your left hip. That's another diagonal line of fascia. As you breathe in expansively and more dynamically into the chest. And as you breathe out, allowing your left arm to get heavier and heavier. Whole body softens into the path of least resistance. And we're working in the lung chi and the heart meridians. Notice how the physical shape of the position alters and resonates in your inner energies. Sometimes when working in these meridian lines, we can let go of any anxious thoughts or any heaviness in the heart space to become more light, more spacious. And there may be the physical feeling of perhaps uncomfortableness as you open the pectoral muscles and tension at the front of the chest, or maybe a pressure in the back of the chest. But over time, that uncomfortableness physically may fade away. And what we're left with is an energetic experience where we almost transcend the physical experience entirely. So see if you can feel into the more subtle sensations in your experience, the energetic experience. And perhaps the breath is a really good massaging muscle, tissue and fascia around your ribcage with each breath movement. And taking your last 2 deep breaths. And now in slow motion, bring your left arm over your body so that you close the chest slightly. And then the spine moves into one line. Good, and then roll back to center with your spine in one line as you release. Hug your knees in, give yourself a big hug. Take a deep breath in, sighing out. Let's bring your right leg over your left leg. Both knees will move over, up and over to your left, or vice versa if you did the opposite side. Hug your knees high towards you. And as you breathe in, raise your right arm. And as you breathe out, move the right arm wide, perhaps in line with the shoulder. So I can demonstrate if you're confused, but you guys look good. So making sure your knees are really high. And then as you breathe in, raise your arm. As you breathe out, maybe move the arm alongside the ear, or you can go wide, a slight diagonal, so just above your shoulder. Breathe in, inflating the side of your waist, side of the rib cage, armpit, under your shoulder blade and the pectoral area. With each breath in. And as you breathe out, allow your right arm to get heavier and heavier as it sinks downwards. Breathing in deeply. Breathing out to surrender and sink through your right side body. Right arm becomes heavier and heavier as you release into total passivity. See if you can sit within the experience that is unfolding. Really sitting in the experience of this present moment, the now. And whatever it holds, becoming really comfortable with non-striving. So not striving to better your yoga pose in any way. Take away any striving or need to be better in any way. And see if you can sit within the stillness that arises when we allow ourselves to be everything we already are in this moment. Everything's allowed to be there. And when we take away the doing, what is left is an undoing, an unraveling that occurs naturally without us having to force anything. We can so often layer onto the authentic experience we're having all of our needs and requirements, our striving and our keenness to being. And so that gets in the way of the actual being. When we let go and surrender into all that is, beingness arises. Organically and naturally, linking us to a force greater than us, that force of nature. And here we'll take 2 more deep breaths. And when you've finished your last few breaths here, this time bringing your right arm over your body so that you have a little slack to then be able to roll the spine back in one line, back to center, and hug your knees inwards. Take a deep breath in, big sigh. And now lengthen through both arms and both legs and come to your Shavasana position. Palms face upwards, a little away from the sides of the body, allowing your fingers to naturally curl and to relax. And as you close your eyes, settle into that complete body surrender, whole body surrender. In this place of open receptivity, reminding yourself of your intention from earlier, holding your intention to mind. And really visualize and invite in your intention. And when you feel ready to move, making small movements in your fingers and your toes, bringing the awareness back into the physical body. And we'll hug one knee into your chest and then the other, rocking from side to side. Roll to your right side and come to a seated position. Bring the palms to prayer pose, Anjali Mudra. Thumbs connect to the heart space. Take a deep breath in. Big sigh. Raising your thumbs to the third eye, your place of intuition, breathing into this third eye center. Exhale to fold forwards. And staying folded for as long as you want to feel the effects. Namaste. Namaste to all of you. And thank you so much for joining me. So lovely to see you all virtually. And hopefully I'll see you really soon. So let me know how your practice went in the chat. And I hope you have a very delicious rest of your Friday evening. Oh, thank you so much, Anita. So lovely to see you. And April, thank you so much. And Caroline, you have a lovely weekend. Lisa, I'm so glad. Yay. Clements. Anita and Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Hillary. Thank you, Hillary. Oh, lovely. And Carl. Thank you, Carl. Yay. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Lawrence. Fernanda and Catherine.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. And Ahmed.